morning, everybody. Thank you for braving the cold. Is this not working? There we go. Hello, hello. A little more, Brandon. And you can go ahead and hit my first slide, too. Matthew 7:14 says, "The gate is small and narrow, and the road that leads to life, only a few will find it." That's in reference to our Christian life, the life that we're meant to walk. The path is a narrow trail, just like a mountain trail that I find when I'm going off-roading. You all know me for my Jeep out there and our adventures with the youth group and anybody else really who wants to come along. And this narrow path that Matthew talks about there reminds me a lot of these narrow paths I end up on way high in the mountains. Like a mountain trail, there's not always space to move around your obstacles when they come across your path. Sometimes the trail's just too tight, and there's no way past them but either over them or through them. And we know about this path that God always wants to elevate us. He always wants to lift us higher and higher. Next one, Brandon. Jeremiah 29:11 makes that very clear. He knows the plans that he has, the plans to prosper you and give you, or excuse me, I gotta read it from here, I can't read it from there. "Know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not harm you, plans for good and for a hope and a future." And so this is going to be an uphill battle because God is constantly trying to lift you up, trying to bring you to places where you don't think you're capable of or can't even imagine. Proverbs 3:6 says, "In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. He will make your paths straight." And that one I like better, that version up there. That's kind of a promise that our trail's going to halfway know where to go. He's going to direct our paths. The King James Version says, "Acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." That kind of acts like the GPS in my Jeep. We have directions that show us how to get where we're supposed to get and make sure that we stay on the right path. Now, we're the directors of our own lives. We're the drivers. We can steer any directions we choose. We can brake and stop and hit the gas all we want. We are in control of the vehicle. And thankfully, we're given a fully equipped vehicle to handle this, as everything is provided. When we get into really tough situations, we even have a winch to help pull us through. We can rely on the might of Jesus. As he says, "I can do all things to Christ who strengthens me." It's him. As long as we rely on him for the strength, the really bad stuff, he's going to pull us through. As we come across this path and we're going up it, a few of the same obstacles come across everybody's path. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about those and my struggle dealing with some of those issues in my own life. One of the first things predominant things that can happen is you can get stuck in the mud. Now, mud is the past sins that hold you down. They're the things, the mistakes that you made, that before you know it, they're sticking to you, they're surrounding you, and they're holding you down. And no matter how much you spin your tires, you're not going anywhere. You're stuck. When this happens to you, when you're surrounded by your own sins, by your own mistakes, you have two options. You can back up, reverse out of there, get clear of the mud, and then hit it back with momentum. That is to repent, to back up to where you were before these sins, to regather yourself again and try with momentum. The other option is to find an anchor point on the other side. And we are given plenty of these. These are all the promises of the Lord that are rooted, cannot be moved, cannot be changed, cannot be altered. Any one of those promises is a great point to anchor to. And like I said, we already have the winch. As soon as you anchor one of those promises and keep calling it to yourself, keep claiming them out, speaking them into life, that winch takes control. Jesus does the pulling power before you knew it. If you're focusing on his promises, you're through the mud. You don't even realize it's happening. He says that he even promises that he's going to take you out of this mud. He says, "I'm going to separate you from your sins as far as the east is from west." Paul, Moses, and David all had something in common. They all killed somebody. They all lived in cold blood. And yet God chose them anyway. He used them regardless. Their past sins didn't hold them back. They didn't disqualify them, despite the very severe nature of murder. Moses, it took him a while. He had to back up for 40 years and hit the whole issue that he was dealing with again because of his fear over the fact that he had killed somebody and the Egyptians were out to get him. Fresh out of the Navy, fresh out of boot camp in the Navy, my first time back to the real world, been through A school, been through boot camp, I got stationed near Fresno, California. And I chose the wrong lifestyle. I tried to live out what you see on rap videos, the promiscuous lifestyle, the drinking and partying and having the wrong focus. My life even led me into some jail time. What I had to do, I had to back up, and I had to back way up. I had to back up and find who I was way before I went down that road, and it took me years and years and years to do so. The cost for making these bad mistakes can't be avoided. When you make a mistake, the consequences are eternal. But that doesn't mean that you have to be held down by them. Despite living a lifestyle which no one would think, looking at me back then, that I'd be here doing what I am now, here I am. So, next common obstacle that comes along your path are going to be mental blocks. They're boulders, big old boulders standing right in your path. We all have internal challenges despite how hard we try in our human nature. We all try to hide them, but we all have issues. There's not one of you in here, I can guarantee, who is lacking thereof. We all do a good job of hiding them, each in our own way. I try to hide mine pretty well. Well, whether it was Peter with his temper, Elijah's moodiness, Gideon and his insecurity, or Thomas and his doubt, we all have times where a boulder comes in our path, seemingly too big to move. And the only way we get hung up is when we try to straddle the issue. When we try to hit it right in the middle, it's going to get caught up underneath us. Therefore, the way to get through these is to pick a side of the issue. Whatever your issue is, to pick a side, to commit to one side of it or another and not straddle the fence. To decide what you're going to do, to make a choice and to pick a line, is what it's called in off-roading. You pick a line, you decide what path you're going to make. In off-roading, you have to take your wheels one at a time, straight over. You go straight over the obstacle. You don't straddle it because it's going to get caught up. But if you go over one wheel at a time, you can get over stuff you can never even imagine. That's the same as life. One wheel at a time, one bite at a time. You take it one step at a time. And before you know it, you've cleared this obstacle. Now, I'm insecure like Gideon. Now, I have all that I need to overcome it, despite my appearances. I am insecure like Gideon. I'm definitely moody like Elijah. That's anybody knows me well enough to know mornings before I get my caffeine, I'm kind of a grizzly bear.
Can you say that again?
He would know. There's a second witness right there. Like Thomas, I struggle with doubt from time to time. And I've seen a lot in this world that makes it not even a faith thing, but an experience thing. And still, I struggle with doubt. Still, the enemy will come, tag my mind. I mean, everything from God's existence to something I'm going to do, to a plan I have, that doubt comes in and fights. And like Peter, I have a temper. There's times where I will lose my temper and yell and scream. I am a sailor. And I've had to invent a whole new language to cover up the cursing like a sailor part. So I fog goggles and things in jars and random nonsense words trying to get past this boulder in my path. Sometimes something breaks and comes crashing in our path. A fallen tree, if you will. Sometimes a physical ailment will seemingly stand in our way. Moses stuttered, Zacchaeus was short, Abraham was old, Lazarus was dead. Even all these shouldn't be a block to your path. They're a lie. It's an illusion. Now, the physical ailment itself is not the illusion, but the fact that it blocks your path is the illusion. And the best way to these is to pull out a chainsaw and cut it into manageable pieces. Break the injury down and find out what you can do, not what you can't. God uses you as you are. You are as you are, so God can use you as intended. We're the clay in the potter's hands. He shapes us to be whatever He wants us to be. The things you go through in your life, the challenges, the struggles, the triumphs, the victories and the tragedies, they all have an effect on who you are, especially when you're in this mortal flesh. God's aware of all of those things when He calls you. He knows where you are. He probably had a very big hand in getting you to that point. In fact, He's a lot more aware of your capabilities than you are yourself. Sometimes you need help. There's an off-road rule. Never wheel alone. Next one, Brandon. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 and 10 says, 2 are better than 1. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Sometimes you get stuck on this path and nothing you can do as the driver alone is going to get you out. Sometimes you have no other option but to seek help. A lot of us have a problem with that. I don't like asking for help. I'm a proud person. I like being the helper, not the one getting the help. But it's important that you realize that in this situation, your pride is the obstacle. It's not what you think it is. Your pride is the obstacle. If help is right there, and your pride is stopping you from getting help, that's something you need to get over or through. And it's the same with off-roading a little bit. Once you pass an obstacle, you're through, but it's your responsibility to help the person behind you. You go along the line and you never leave the person in your rearview mirror. You always can see the person behind you. You're responsible for the person behind you. Once you get through a task, if they get stuck on it, you're hooking your rope up to them and you're going to be the one responsible to pull them through. The same goes with anything. Once you have Deuteronomy somewhere says, I didn't prepare this, but I know it's in there, you have authority where your footsteps are taking you. That's very highly paraphrased, please forgive me, but it is there. You have authority. When you've been through a problem, you've overcome that problem, you have the keys to that problem. Whether you know how it is, or how it works, or what, you have experience to that problem, and you have heavenly authority over that problem. As long as you walk the earth. There's people who will have some kind of injury, and before you know it, they're praying for people and curing people of the same injury that they were healed of. I've seen this happen multiple times. The goal of where we're trying to get is only half the point of this trip. It's not just about where we are headed, but how the trip changes us as we travel along it. God put us here in this world with a limited time expiration date. We all are trapped in mortality, but there's a reason for that. I believe that there are changes that can be made to what we really are that can only happen while we're here in the flesh, while we're here with free will and under moral consequence. Walking this path, driving this path, however you want to say it, is going to change you. After each obstacle you get over, it's going to leave an effect on you. You're going to grow stronger. You're going to grow more adept. You're going to grow more experienced. Your faith is going to grow. And you're going to be someone different from when you first set out. In the end, it matters where we're going, don't get me wrong. But the point of the trip really is the trip. That's why our lives are here. We have eternity after this place. Eternity, it's like trying to minus from infinity. You can't, I mean, our 70, 80, 90, 100 years aren't even, you can't even put it on a math problem next to eternity. It's, infinity minus 100 is still infinity. So this little blip that we're in now, this is where he shapes us. This is where he molds us. This is where he guides us. And he does that if we agree to walk on the path that he has set forth before us. Now, if you doubt whether the Lord is calling you, Revelation 3:20 makes it clear. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and dine with him, and he with me. 2 Thessalonians 1:11 says, with that in mind, we constantly pray for you, that God may make you worthy of his calling. Romans 8:30. And those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he justified. And those he justified, he also glorified. Be ready to charge over obstacles. Be an overcomer. You see me parking my Jeep on the highest hill I can find every time. But there's a symbol in that. I've overcome those things. And I leave my Jeep up on top of them as a trophy to myself, saying, I've done this. I've gotten through this thing. What's next? That attitude of charging your problems, not being afraid of them, not being held down, but rather having confidence that the Lord has not only placed you in the position that you are, but he's done it for a purpose, and he's given you everything you need to get past it. In the end, you'll find yourself being the one with four-wheel drive, helping others get unstuck as you lead them along this path. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
That trick to have Renee come up and play like it. Jason, take this, move this to sandwich. I surrender all, is that what we're saying? Take this message, this word, and encourage our hearts, encourage our souls. Help us to continue forward. Help us to overcome obstacles. Help us to help others. We thank you for the message. We thank you for the life that Taylor represents. Thank you that you have helped him overcome much to be with us this morning, to share his life this morning. Hallelujah. And we know there's not one here as Taylor said, who doesn't stand in need of your strength to overcome. We ask you this morning, Lord, to give us help, give us strength. Give us the willingness to ask for help. The issues we face in this life. In Jesus'